The stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause the stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause the stream is about to start. Hi, I'm Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is to improve this thing on the screen. The thing that you see right here, the waveform display for our real-time effects for REAPER, real-time audio processing effects in REAPER, in JS effects. We are working on this library, and we are going to get to a series of effects using this library. And the feature that we are looking at right now is this waveform display. We want to improve on it in several ways. I guess the first way that we want to improve on this is maybe to draw the contours. That could be a good one. But also I am going back and forth with this idea, but you know how you can sort of see the peaks and the troughs in the waveform? Let me show you what I mean. When you zoom into the image, you can sort of see it going up and down too fast. It doesn't look too nice. That's not what it looks like on the waveform display on the timeline. So maybe what we could do is smooth this out. And naturally, there are several ways to do this. We are going to go with the simplest thing that can work. So, and by the way, the goal is that today we are going to finish. Whatever we end up with today is the waveform component that we'll go with, at least for the first few effects that we do. I really want to get to some audio effects instead of just the library stuff. So let's push through this. One way of fixing this is to just increase the width of the drawing. So the slice width is this, and then the actual drawing, I'm doing this. Okay, so that's the variable that I'm talking about. Right now it's a single pixel. Each slice is drawing a single pixel. But we can change that. So let's go over the design system and find some other spaces that we can use. So instead of using a pixel, we could use this. And let's see what that looks like. And we'll see if we can find a good setting that works every time. And if we cannot, then we'll pass this as an argument to the drawing function. And let the developer of the plugin using our library decide what kind of argument to use. But I mean, this looks nice already. We can see all the... We are not losing resolution. Kind of looks nice. I mean, if we make this number too big, it is going to start losing resolution, I think. Let's see. Let's try it out. So over here, I am in the REAPER editor because I want to see the effects of my changes faster. How about that? That is looking all right. Or maybe this. This is looking better. So let's go down here and find the place where I'm using space of 1. We could use a space of a half. And then it looks like this. And I think I can sort of see the flickering here. Let's take a screenshot. Yeah, I don't know if this stream is going to translate this, and it's very subtle, but there I can see some flickering in here. So it seems like the setting of 1 is perfect. It's a solid line, but we still have the resolution to see the peaks and everything. So I think this should be good enough. Yeah, I'll commit this. Next, we have this noted somewhere. Looking at scaling the waveform, yeah, we may get to that. Parameter to draw thicker lines and hide the gaps. That's what we just did. The contour seems interesting, so I think I'm gonna go I'm going to go and do that next. And on my example here, the plugin that we are actually looking at, this one, I am resorting to opacity. I don't think I really need that. You can just do it like this. And then we can do a full compile reset. I think that picked up the changes. And yeah, this is looking nice. You can sort of see some thick, so maybe this is too much. You can sort of see some lines that are too thick here, I think. Let's make this value too big, and then it will be wrong and we'll be able to tell. So this is a value that is too big. It's just smoothing the waveform too much. We are losing too much resolution. This is, I guess, a good compromise, but it may be too much, because if I just do a click, it may be too thick. So let's try that again and do the click again. Yeah, this may be our guy. Right, but that's not what that was about. I guess the alpha helped with that. Yeah, taking out the alpha made the line more solid and got rid of the artifacts even at half, which gives us good resolution. And yeah, CTPAXM says, "Hi, have a nice evening." Oh, sorry, wrong account. There we go. Hello, how are you doing? Good to have you here. And I hope you enjoy this. Our meeting is not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be the day after that. I'm talking about the C++ study group, in case you all watching this don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you on the chat, CTPXAM or German Sherlin, you know what I'm talking about. Right. So yeah, I guess taking out the alpha lets us use this smaller value. Does it let us use this without a compromise? Yeah, this seems okay. It's kind of flickering here, some in the middle, but it gives us great resolution over here. If I just click, let's try this one again, or even half. Okay. Yeah, that's a good click. No complaints. So all of that was to set up the contour. Let's work on the contour. And I think that the contour should be... So there are two ways to go about this. You know how I have a function to draw waveforms, and they can be bipolar or rectified. This is the bipolar version, this is the rectified version. I have these two flavors, and you have to set that as an argument. We could have another option that would be like bipolar contour or rectified contour. I don't think I love this idea, because then you would have to call the function once to draw the... If you want to have a filled-in form as well as a contour, you would have to call the function twice. And in between the first and the second calls, there may be new data being collected in the sample block, and that new data will make the two waveforms go out of alignment. I haven't really seen that happening. I haven't really tried to do it, and by eyeballing these two waveforms, they seem to be in sync enough for it to be okay. But just in case, I think it's better to, instead of having two flavors that you have to call, I think it makes sense because right now I think it makes sense to have bipolar as a different flavor than rectified, because in most cases you don't want to show both like I am doing here. This is mostly for demonstration. But in many cases you will want to fill in the form as well as draw a contour. And in that case, I think it makes sense to just have another argument here. So let's change the way that this works right now. So this is the drawing function. Instead of having just a type, I will also have another argument, which is contour. But the downside of doing this is that what if I just want the contour? Then I could have another argument to not draw the filled in form. Yeah, I think that's what I need. I need three options. The type, which is bipolar or rectified, whether or not to draw the filled in portion, and whether or not to draw the contour. All of these three options need to exist, and they need to be taken in account. And I think that the first thing I'm going to do is to change this from I have bipolar and rectified types. I don't think I will have other types. So I think I'm going to collapse this into a Boolean that I will call is, or just rectified, which by default will be false. And then I can get rid of these types, and anywhere where I see type, oh, hang on. Did I just add a new argument when I should be replacing an existing one? What did I do? Oh, that's exactly what I did. I added a new one without removing the old one. Okay, so rectified is a Boolean. By default, it's false. And then when I look at the type, I should be looking at rectified. If it is rectified, then I will want to do that. And otherwise, I want to do this. Just like that. Okay. So then the way you call the function is sort of the same, because in my example file, I was calling this version, not passing an explicit rectification. Oh, I was passing something something explicit. So I need to change this to pass through to activate the rectified version on that one. And with all of that, I suppose that I can reload this, do a full compile reset, and it's going to still look the same. Great. Let me reveal the changes over here. Seems about right. So now let's add another option. Or maybe I can piggyback on something that already exists, which is this notion of color. This is the color for the filled in portion of the waveform. So I could have an option to do an undefined color, and I look at that color. If it's undefined, I don't draw that part. Yeah, let's do exactly that. So I'll have here a color for fill and a color for contour, or maybe stroke we can sort of follow the nomenclature of SVGs, fill and stroke. Yeah, we can do that. And and we don't currently have, we currently have a notion of undefined values. So I can just use that. Great. And then let's see, we have a function, we have a flavor of the function. I'm overloading the function. This waveform draw comes in different flavors. You can pass some arguments that are optional, or you can not pass them because they're optional. So this version is, how about if you just provide a few? Then I'm going to pass undefined. And let's look at the version that has all the arguments. I guess that's a good place to start. So I'll have a color, fill, color, stroke, and rectified. Then I'll leave this here up top for reference. Down below, we'll have the version that has waveform X, Y, width, and height, and then just color fill. And it's going to call the other one with undefined and false. So this is still the same when I use it over here. This version. But the other version here is passing a type. So I could have another flavor. But I think I will not. Yeah, I think I will insist on the color for stroke. And that design decision of having this as a required argument kind of steers the developer using the library to make a certain decision, which is to usually draw the stroke. But I think that's a fine thing. I think that's okay. So we just have one optional argument, which is the rectified, which is false by default. And then I have to pass here two arguments. And how about we since we are going with a dark mode kind of background, how about we do it like this? I think that this will look nice. I don't know, we'll see. So now I'm requiring these two arguments. I'm requiring you to pass fill and stroke, and rectified as an optional argument. Okay, I like this this API. Then over here in the implementation, we'll have color, fill, and stroke, and rectified. And right now, I'm going to just change this, and then it's supposed to continue working as it was if I made all the changes consistently to all the parts of the API. Let's see. Yeah, it is dark, perhaps too dark, but that is just the choice of color. I can change that real quick. Maybe 900 was too dark. How about the 700? How about that? That's better. And this is not fast. This is causing issues. I wonder why. Because it wasn't a moment ago. Was it the changing API that I introduced? Shouldn't be, but something odd is happening. I wonder if it's affecting my audio. Sometimes when I'm doing things that are too slow, it affects my audio. Maybe if I just reload the effect. Is that better? It seems to be. Weird, but all right. Then let's come back here and implement the stroke. If the filled in portion is going to be 700, then let's do 500 for the contour or the stroke. Okay. So now So the whole reason why we want to do the whole drawing, fill and stroke in one pass is so that in this loop, when I read values of the slice, when I read these values, they're going to be consistent in the drawing of the contour and the filled in portion, which means that I will have to switch to the filled in mode, do some part of the drawing, which is this part of the drawing. So I guess I'm going to move this down here. And tail is here. Hello. It's great to have you here. And okay, so that's drawing the filled in portion of the waveform. Now let's do the computation for drawing the contour. And I think that in order to not have to redo this, I mean, I could. We are doing user interface code here, so we don't have to think about performance too much. And I could just do this whole thing of checking for rectified or not and computing things differently over here. Yeah, I guess I would do that. But if I was writing code that would run in the audio thread, I would probably avoid it and do both the computation of these coordinates as well as the computation of the coordinates that are here, all in one place, so I don't have to check rectified again. But I think it will be fine. And Bo is here. Hello, Bo. It's great to have you here. Now we need to compute some coordinates. That's what's gonna go there. Then we are going to change to the stroke color, and this order is significant, by the way. I want the stroke to be on top of the filled in portion, not the other way around, which means that I have to draw this second. If I did it the other way around, it would draw the stroke first, and then the filled in portion could kind of cover the stroke. So keep that in mind. And we will draw this width. It's just this space, which I guess is fine. So I guess I will draw two squares. So this draw height will be again yeah, I guess I'll separate it like this. One paragraph for drawing the filled in portion, one paragraph for drawing the stroke. And then when I say that the width is equal to the height, I just mean I want it to be a square. But I will need to compute two of these guys. So the x is something that is taken care of by the loop. I don't have to do any work there. But then I have this y, and I will need to have two of them. One for the top, one for the bottom. So I suppose I can just reuse these variables. Would you look at that? I think I already computed the arguments I needed. I'm not really sure, but let's check it. If I do this, top and bottom, then we don't really need to separate this paragraph. And there is something silly that I'm doing. I'm switching colors back and forth really fast inside this loop. But that's a side effect that I think is necessary for keeping the alignment of the slices so that the filled in portion, the stroke, don't go out of alignment as the audio thread is writing into the circular buffer. So I think it would be fine to incur on this overhead. So with all of that said, let's give this a try. Hello. Okay, something odd is happening. It's drawing something in green and and all of this stuff is not right. We got some R's here. But I was not anticipating this. I was not expecting to draw some R's. Oh, one thing I do need to check is if my fill and stroke are undefined. So let's check for that real quick. So if my color fill is different from undefined, then set the color fill and do the drawing. And if my color stroke is not undefined, then draw dash. Okay, but I don't think it's gonna help with the weird situation we have going on here. Oh, undefined. Undefined is undefined? What's up with that? Oh, I forgot question marks. So we thought it was a function call. That's why it was coloring different too. Okay, so something is happening. The green portion is this guy here, and of course I am not computing X top and bottom on the rectified version. Because the rectified version only has the top. So maybe I am trying to pull out the similarity of this line, but maybe I should be inlining this over here and over here because they have less things in common than I was expecting. Let's test this step by step. I'm going to comment out the drawing of the waveform that is rectified. And now it is drawing something in a darker shade of blue. It's drawing in 2 shades of blue, that's for sure. And I think I know why this might be. The logic of our drawing and everything is correct. I think that the issue may be something else, which is much worse news for us. I think that what is happening is, you know how we just smoothed the weird glitchiness by just making the squares bigger? We changed this line to make the squares or the rectangles that we draw slightly thicker to cover up some parts. Oh, that's a nice trick and all, but in reality we are still painting over the same spot over and over. It's just that when you have a form that is filled in, you don't see that painting over and over. But if you try to draw the contour is going to dive in between this thicker rectangle. It's going to dive in between and paint there. Let me give these 2 colors that are very different, and we can try to see that effect. So now in red, it's drawing the stroke, and in blue, it's drawing the filled in portion. And you can see that the red is diving in, and it is peeking through. So when I just click, you can just see the clicks on top, and that's all right. That's what a contour was supposed to be. But in here, the red is kind of going in and peeking in between the tiles, in between the slices. And then the real solution for this is something that I was trying to avoid to have to implement. I think. I I think this is the real solution for this. I think that the real solution for this is, you know how we have this whole logic that we wrote last week that accumulates samples as they come in and put them in the same slice and everything? We sort of have to do the same logic over here. We sort of have to accumulate slices into the current rectangle because this width, this increment, the slice width here may be less than 1. Let's check what the slice width is right now. Yep, it's 0.15, and you cannot draw 0.15 pixels, which means that we have a chance of going in, diving into that place. And as we make this window bigger, so we know how we are supporting like an 8K display, can sort of simulate that by making this window very wide, wider than my screen, which is something that I don't think you can do in every operating system, but in macOS you can just keep making the window bigger and bigger. So I can make it so large that the waveform is going to start showing the peaks and troughs, but then the contour is going to work right. I think it will anyway at some point. So I guess we'll have to redo this logic of accumulating samples into slices and then slices into, I don't know, tiles. I don't know, something like that. And then it's going to look like this. And maybe it is too... my microphone is maybe not loud enough for me to even show this happening. So maybe... How about we don't bother about the contour and the stroke? Just forget about it, not implement it. Just have the filled-in waveform. That is probably going to be simpler from an implementation perspective. Yeah, that's what we are going to try to do. Let's just take out everything that has to do with the stroke. So it means taking this out. And let me take a moment to think about this, because maybe it's not the end of the world to implement this. Yeah, we have 25 minutes. Let's bite the bullet and do this. And let's just check that there is nothing else that is higher priority. Scaling the waveform could be higher priority. The stuttering I will not get to, it's just too complicated. A way to control whether the waveforms reset on playback start is something that actually has to do with the plugin overall, not just the waveform display. So I guess the waveform just needs to provide a way to reset itself. But the plugin will have to set the X no init variable. I feel like I'm getting too much in the weeds here. Yeah, let's see if we can pull off this in 25 minutes. It's not too hard of a logic. We wrote already here. So we just have to replicate that. So we are going to go over the slices. And this time around, we don't care about the slice width, because we are not going to be repainting over and over. We just need to compute. Yeah, we need to go over all the draw widths. So that's what I'm really drawing. And the draw width can then be a pixel, because we are going to do the right thing now. Instead of trying to cover it with a larger tile, we are going to do the right thing. And there is something to be said about this pixel, because this pixel is taking into account Retina display, so it's multiplying by 2. We could just literally look at one pixel at a time, because then in Retina displays you will get double the resolution, I think. But I'll keep this at a pixel level right now. So let's go over this again. The length of the slices is still something that we need to look into, because we need to loop over that. Then the slice width is for drawing. That is going to change. The slice width is going to be equal to the draw width, so I can essentially just get rid of that. Okay, so half of the height, that stays the same. Then the draw width is that. And this logic is going to be complicated. I am afraid of writing this code. The midpoint seems all right. The offset is with respect to the circular buffer. That makes sense. Then this draw X situation will have to change. We want the increment of draw X, which used to be draw width. It's no longer draw width. Oh no, actually, well, it is. There's no way I'm gonna be able to finish this in 22 minutes. So just take a detour and look at the scaling of the waveforms, because that seems less intimidating. This code is going to be so difficult for me to write, not because it's difficult code to write, it's because it's going to be difficult code for me to write. We'll have to essentially go over all the slices. They have all the information. We'll have to accumulate the slices that make up 1 pixel. So if I slice width before was like 0.15, we will have to take... We'll have to look at 6.6 of them and then draw a rectangle. And then look at the 6.6 next slices and draw one more tile, I guess. We can call it tiles. But let's look at something else. Let's drop some audio over here on the timeline. And look at the waveform display that REAPER gives us. And this is the waveform display, and I think there are options here to change the amplitude of the drawing. It is under peaks display settings, spectral peaks, scale peaks by square root, which makes everything bigger. Half of range is 12 dB rather than 6. So we may want to have this option too. Oh, and there is also display zoom. Did I see that right? Yeah. So display zoom and scaling are easier to do. So that's what we are going to do. Let's remove all these changes. And let's start with... We'll use the same name, so I'll use scale and zoom. Let's start with zoom. I'll let this be an optional variable. And we do have something in the design system for scaling. Yeah. And this scale actually corresponds to the notion of zooming. So what name do I give this? Oh, I will have to change this. Maybe I will do it like this. And by the way, if I change this to rectified peaks, do I still have the option to scale by the square root? It seems like that, yeah. And I do have spectral peaks enabled, but I don't see the spectral peaks. Wasn't this supposed to be using spectral peaks? Wasn't this supposed to be showing me colors? Go figure. Now I'm pondering the order of the parameters, if I want to change the rectification or the scaling first. I think I will go with scale first. Since I am having this debate internally, I think I might as well not have optional parameters. They are all required. So let's go over all of these again. I'll do the color, and then I will do I'll do zoom and scale. Or I will do scale and square root, which is going to be a Boolean. So let's go over all of these again. We have the colors, and then scale is going to be 100%, and then square root false, and rectified false. And on the rectified version, we'll do colors, scale of 100%, square root of false, and rectified true. We can decide on optional parameters later. So now, with these changes, the display should still be working just the same. It seems to be. Oh, but we still have that code that tries to draw the contour, and that doesn't work well. So let's just have false. Yeah, Dale is saying that he gets colors when selecting spectral peaks. I do too, but maybe it's because this is a whole mix, so it's not detecting any particular pitch. It is strange though. Something to test real quick is to just start recording my own voice here. Yeah, I think that it's recognizing pitch here, but it's not recognizing any pitch here, so it just doesn't bails out. I don't know. So yeah, false, and this is going to disable this chunk of code, and now we should get back to a state where things look okay. Yeah, things look reasonable. And then, so far we just introduced the arguments, but we didn't really use them. Let's do the square root first, because it's supposed to be easy. All I gotta do is take the square root of these guys. So, square root, question mark? And then that square root of these guys, and that should be that. And that should be working now. How do I test this? The square root makes things bigger, so I am going to go back to where I call these functions, and I'm going to draw a multiple of these. I am going to draw this one that is the smaller one. I want to draw second. So keep this, and I will change that to be square root. And I'll do the same over here, just for completeness. So I'm drawing the square root first, that one is bigger, and then on top I draw this one. And I want to, of course, make them different colors. So I'll make them blue and red, and this I will make green and purple. Okay, this may be too much. Oh, hang on. I am taking the square root of negative numbers, aren't I? Imagine that. These numbers may be negative. So what I need to do is take the absolute value of these guys, take the square root and multiply by the sign of these guys. Is this a function in JSFX? I think it is. JSFX. Could probably have just run the thing and wait for it to complain, but sign. Yes, it is a function. Great. So second try. Okay, now I see blue below as it should be. But of course, this is too loud. So how about I get back to just my voice over here? And yeah, right. So this does look bigger as it should. So I think we implemented the square root. And I think, even as I am silent, you can really see the difference between the square root version and the not square root version. Yeah, check this out. Great. I think this one we have in the bag. Next. Oh, and can you see something subtle that I was pointing out? And now I think I can see that. But it's still subtle, and the stream may not make this justice because the stream is 25 frames per second and I am seeing this in 60 frames per second. But I can see the red waveform and the blue waveform going out and out of alignment and back into alignment. So I was doing this whole conversation of you don't want to necessarily call the function twice to do the contour because they may go out of alignment. And I think I see the blue and the green and the red and the purple, they all kind of flicker in and out of alignment because they are different calls to the function. And in between the calls, the audio thread may have pushed more slices into the circular buffer. Can you see that on the stream? Because I think, again, it's very hard to see, but I think I can see that. Alrighty. So square root we have in the back. Great, let's do scaling, because that's supposed to be easy too. Over here I can just multiply the scale. Because the scale, if I remember correctly, I already defined scale in terms of 1. So I can just multiply. By scale. And maybe this list is getting too long, so how about I break it apart in multiple lines as well? Bum, 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 bum. And multiply by scale here. I'm not sure I love doing all of this in one line, like the clipping, the scaling, and blah, 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 but yeah, I think I'll separate these in multiple lines just to make things more readable. No, then I will have to have 6 lines of one to get the thing out of there, one to clip, one to scale. Oh, and do I want to do the scaling before or after the square root? I think I want to do it before the square root. I don't know how REAPER does it, but it stands to reason that the scaling happens before the square rooting. How do I test that in REAPER? Where is it? Here. Display zoom. I don't really know a way of testing for this, but the zoom happens first, the scaling happens second, the square root happens second. So yeah, I'll do that in the code as well. Zoom first, square root second if necessary. And with that, we can play around with this scale. But to play around with that, I think that the best way might be to just have a slider for this. I'll call this the scale. It's going to start at 1. It's going to go from 0 to 2. And it's going to have steps of 0.1. And then instead of scale 100, I'll pass scale. Okay, we have a slider, and as we change this, everything is bigger and smaller. Well, that's perhaps too small, but it is scaling. And let's commit this. We're probably going to throw away this whole effect, but yeah, all right. And Jason is saying no comments, question mark. About what? Comments in the code? Comments about what I'm doing? Because I'm commenting as I'm doing things. And I do have comments in the code. So I don't know exactly what you're talking about. In fact, I'm going to go to the comments in the code and take this out because we scaled stuff. And oh, doesn't JSFX allow comments? Yes. 2 ways of having comments. Same ways as you would have in languages like JavaScript or C++. So this is a single line of comment. It is a comment that goes to the end of the line. So if you had some code here, like 1 + 2, then this is a comment that goes to the end of the line. And then there is this way, which is a comment that spans multiple lines. And there is a kind of a third way. It's not exactly a comment, but there's kind of a third way. In JSFX, you have to separate your code into blocks. So this is the block that runs when the effect is loaded for the first time. Serialize is for when you're saving your parameters, your data to disk. And sample is, well, as audio comes in, this is for drawing the user interface. So there are all these blocks, they start with the @ sign. So there's kind of a third way of commenting, which is to just, you can write whatever before the init or before your first block. There are these lines that have special meaning, like this desc stands for description, is what REAPER is going to show up in the effects list. And then these sliders are going to show up as sliders, and then import is going to import libraries, but you can just do whatever over here and it's not going to complain. See, it's just working just the same. So that's kind of a third way of writing comments, which is useful for documentation, maybe. Maybe your effect has some sliders that are not necessarily intuitive, and then people, I guess, have a tendency to just click on edit and look for descriptions or more information over here, at least a link to the REAPER forum or a link to some blog posts or a link to Repack, so something like that. So does that answer the question? And thanks for being here, Jason K125. I see I usually comment before each function to say what it does in C++. Yes, I am planning on doing that and adding comments explaining functions, how to use them, examples and everything. Yeah, I tend to do that later as the API stabilizes. You may not have followed the whole history here, but I have been working on this library for like 4 months now, and I played with different concepts. I changed around the implementation a whole lot, finding the style that makes more sense to me. So if I was writing comments and documenting everything as I was writing, it would be an impossible task. So I prefer to design first, implement things, work with them, use them in real effects. Right now, this is just a demonstration effect, but I will use all of these in real effects. Then I will document, maybe make some shorter videos just explaining how to use things, demonstrating things. And then I will write documentation. And I think I will even write documentation on top of the actual function definitions, but I will probably try to write some quick and dirty tool that extracts the comments into a document, similar to, like, I don't know, JavaDoc, something similar to that. Because I do like having the documentation next to the code that it documents, but I think that having to dive into the source code to see the documentation may not be ideal. So it's not too hard to come up with one of those. You just have to look for a particular pattern like this maybe, which is what JavaDoc uses. Yeah, you're welcome to watch more. I have lots of these videos, and I am doing them a live stream every day of the week at 6:30 UTC. And yeah, it's mostly JS effects these days. I also have worked in JavaScript and other stuff. But with that, I'm going to sign off. This contour is going to have to wait. This is going to be a hack that it's not going to really work for a while. I think I'm probably not going to do one more stream on waveforms. Maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. But you all want to tune in tomorrow, not on my channel, but on IDDQD Sound. I'm going to be a guest there, and we'll have a very special guest, hopefully. Hopefully he will join us tomorrow. Justin Frankel, the creator of REAPER. So if you have questions that you want to ask him, or just topics that you want to talk about with him, show up tomorrow over at IDDQD Sound. I will be there. I hope to see you there. And we'll talk to Justin, and it will be a lot of fun. And we'll be back here on Wednesday for the C++ Digital Signal Processing JUICE study group, which is also a lot of fun. So thank you, Jason and Tail and Bo and German Cherling. I hope to be pronouncing your name correctly. And thank you everyone else who's watching this. Thank you everyone else who is spamming the chat. We love you all. Thanks for supporting me, for just being great in general. And I see you tomorrow to talk with you and Justin. It will be a lot of fun. See you there. Bye.